Hi there. This is chapter 5 of the book called Listen. The chapter is called Night. Charlie is in bed watching television when her father gets home and comes into her room to say goodnight. "You don't know anything about training dogs," he says when she asks him about Coyote. "Taming a wild one is no way to start. You have no idea what's happened to that dog, what scars he has. A professional trainer probably couldn't turn a dog like that into a pet." He doesn't understand, Charlie thinks. She isn't exactly sure she does. She wants Coyote in her life, but she does not want a pet. "If you really want a dog, we could get you a puppy, an animal that doesn't have any history to overcome." Even that wouldn't be easy. Puppies require a lot of attention. Her father leans against her door frame and frowns. His face is thinner than it used to be, and less certain. On the other hand, training a pup would give you something to do this summer, something to focus on and get you out of the house, if you think you're up to it. We'd have to get some dog training books. "I don't want a puppy," Charlie says. "I want this dog. If he doesn't come and live with us, he's gonna die. Whether he dies in the woods or at a shelter, he's gonna die." There's no point in trying to explain the connection she feels with this dog. Paul Morgan loosens his tie and sighs. Death is not a subject that they talk about. Charlie crosses her arms on her chest and looks him straight in the eye. "This dog will give me something to do this summer too." She watches his face change. He's made up his mind. All right, but if he shows the slightest sign of being dangerous, the deal's off. Mrs. Davis said that he's a sweetie, and she's right. You can see it in his eyes. He's just scared of people. A scared dog is a dangerous dog. How could he be dangerous? He won't even come close enough to a human being to bite. You really think you can tame him? Yes. Charlie puts more certainty in her voice than she feels. Feeding him is a start. Her father becomes all business now, setting into the mode that makes him the most comfortable. "All right then, you and Sarita can go and pick up some supplies tomorrow. Training books, food, dish, collar, leash." He ticks them off on his fingers. Charlie thinks about the golden dog on a leash. "I don't think we need a leash yet." "Collar and leash," he says again. "You're gonna need a way to control him." She doesn't argue. Her father comes over to kiss the top of her head and leaves her thinking about a dog who disappears into the woods when she so much as looks at him. Even so, she feels her heart lift. She turns off the television and the light over her head and slides under the covers. "Coyote," she whispers. "Where is he right now?" She closes her eyes and an image comes into her mind of the dog, a pale shape in the darkness, curled on the flat, smooth ground of his place by the sweet gum tree across the lake. His nose is tucked under his tail. The woods are silent around him, as he has been every night for as long as he can remember. He is alone. But tonight, he is not hungry. He sighs in his sleep, and Charlie imagines him dreaming of the golden retriever he plays with every day, and of the human who fed him. It is pitch black when Charlie wakes from the nightmare, breathing hard. For a moment she thinks she is back in the hospital, but it's too dark for that. Home, then. Her own room. She hopes that she didn't scream. Dad hates it when she wakes him in the night. He never knows what to do or what to say. Once, a long time ago now, back near the beginning, she thought she saw the shine of tears on his cheeks as he sat on the edge of her bed, patting her awkwardly as she felt herself go cold all over. She needs him not to cry, never to cry. "Only a dream," he was saying. "Only a dream." She knew as well as he did that there were worse things than dreams. When she had the nightmare in the hospital, the nurses stopped coming when she screamed. It happened so often. It wasn't worth interrupting whatever they were doing at that hour. She checks her alarm clock. 3:18 a.m., the glowing numbers said. She puts her hands on her belly and takes a long, slow breath, feeling her belly rise as she breathes. Then she counts to 4 as she lets the air out slowly, steadily. She does this again. 3 times, 4 times, It is the most useful thing Tony, the physical terrorist, taught her. The breathing smooths out the sharp edges of the panic whenever the nightmare comes. It works. Always. I think my son is coming. I can hear him storming around in the house. What it doesn't do is keep the nightmares from coming back. Familiar as it is by now, every time feels like the first time, and real, absolutely real. There's no way to know it is a dream until the panic shoves her up and out of sleep. She is running through a huge, bright indoor place full of people dragging suitcases, carrying boxes, or small children. It has to be an airport, but not Charlotte Douglas. That's the airport in Carolina, North Carolina. There's nothing she recognizes. It is full of carts that beep and beep to move people out of the way as they roar past. She keeps having to dodge the carts, every one full of people who glare at her as if she shouldn't be there. Lots of them are kids from school. Amy is on one of the carts, looking the other way, holding a backpack. Charlie calls out, but when the girl turns around, she isn't Amy anymore. Charlie is looking for someone, but she doesn't know who. She's filled with the sense that she has to find this person. There's much more to the dream, things she can never remember clearly when she wakes up, a feeling of hours passing, moving in and out of rooms or stores or landscapes, trying to find the place she's supposed to be or the person that she needs to meet, getting more and more desperate. It's feelings, not images, that she remembers, but there's always one thing that comes with her clearly into waking. She can always remember what it was that made her scream, that woke her up. A spot suddenly appears in front of her in the air. It isn't very big at first, just a black polka dot hovering in front of her. But then it starts to grow, as if a hole is opening up in the world. There's a terrible sound, a kind of roaring, screeching sound. As the black spot gets bigger and bigger, comes closer and closer, she can see that it is infinitely deep, a swirling blackness that is somehow alive and wants to swallow her up. Oh, there he is. Hi. Charlie doesn't remember the first days in the hospital, doesn't know for sure it was this nightmare she had right there after the accident, but the nurses told her about the screaming, so it must have been. It's the dream she's been having for 2 years. It just happened more often in the hospital. Charlie pulls the sheet up under her chin and breathes slowly. Memory, she thinks, is a mysterious thing. Hi. Dreams can fade, like the way in the summer there'll be a wet spot in the road up ahead that disappears as you get close. But until the accident, she thought real life was solid. Things that really happened were there, impossible to forget, like massive boulders that you had to work and work and work to move. Sarita says her father went nearly nuts the first days Charlie was in the hospital, because every time Charlie fell asleep, it was like turning off a computer without saving. Her memory would get wiped clean. "Where am I?" she'd ask. "What happened?" Just like in the movies. And her father would have to tell the whole story all over again. Eventually, he got so tired of telling it that he wrote it all down and just handed her the paper to read. With a head injury like that, she was lucky, the nurses told her, that she was able to read. That was the first week in March. A whole piece of her life, her real life, is still missing, like a faded dream. It isn't fair, she thinks, blinking into the darkness of her room. It isn't fair that she can't choose what gets wiped clean. It isn't fair that memories so clear they seem real can come crashing in on her without warning. Memories that hurt so much she doesn't want them ever again. She kicks off the covers and sits up on the edge of the bed. The dull ache in her legs has turned into real pain. It is a long time since it has hurt this much in the night where there isn't any weight on her leg. She walked too much today. Yesterday now. She turns on the light, waits till her eyes adjust into the glare, grabs her walking stick and stands up. Pain or no pain, she has to pee. While she's in the bathroom, she takes a pain pill, hoping that it will help her get back to sleep. Otherwise, she might not be able to. Most times, the nightmare throws her out of sleep and leaves her stranded like a whale on a beach. She gets back into bed, closes her eyes, and lies very still, willing the sleep to come. Memories come instead. Memories from when she was little. No! She begins to count breaths again, concentrating on the feel of the air going in and out of her nostrils, on the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Then, against the spangly dark behind her eyelids, the wild dog appears, sitting in a splash of sunlight next to a tree, ears up, dark eyes looking at her. 3, 4, 1, 2, and Charlie is asleep. And that is the end of chapter 5.